Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced, get happy with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon, broadcasting out of Burbank, California with UB and Go, and then on my CNBC NBC News Radio channel, KCAA, every Saturday at 6 and Monday at 6. AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and on demand anytime on iHeartRadio. And this is a show about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K words, no Kardashian talk or Kanye talk at all. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time, because that is your birthright. So I have topics and shows to help with that. Everything from Fran Drescher, who was here a few times talking about how to prevent cancer, Corey Feldman, overcoming childhood trauma. I had Marianne Williamson to Marianne from Gilligan's Island, fabulous jazz artist Keiko Matsui, Arturo Sandoval, you name it, I've had them, and they're here to help you find your happiness. And today is no exception. I have with me a friend, actually on a number of different levels. She, from experiencing all of life's hardest challenges, including homelessness, abuse, and losing everything in a house fire, Beverly Hills author Sheila Mac has inspired others through her resilience and determination to gain back control of her own life. Today, Sheila consults individuals, teaches online courses, and is a nationally recognized speaker who has made it her mission to guide others with similar experiences back to empowerment. She has an innate ability to find a glimmer of light, even in the darkest of situations, and pave the way through her personal journey for others to follow. Please welcome to my studio, Sheila Mac.
Hi, Marissa.
Hi, Sheila. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me on today.
Of course. It is my blessing, my pleasure. And where are you zooming in from?
I'm actually in Nevada right now on vacation. So
Nice. Wonderful. In Vegas?
yes.
Okay.
Lake, a beautiful lake.
Oh, good. Okay. So not with the partitions. I heard Vegas is open, which is kind of interesting. I guess gambling, people will gamble.
Right.
COVID, no COVID. But we're going to talk about those kinds of challenges after the commercial break. But before that, I want you to take me back to some of the hardest times that you have. It's hard to believe that you were actually homeless and have had painful past. So did you ever think that you would be doing what you're doing now?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Oddly enough. So when I was really young, my parents got divorced and they could not care for me, which happens in life. And I was moved from home to home, different relatives' homes. And some of the homes were really abusive. And at one point, my mother was over at a home and it was so bad. She said, you just need to go. I was 10 and a half or so years old. And so I just literally took a public bus and went to a friend's house. And then I went from one house to the next house. Sometimes I slept on the benches at the Troubadour. And I learned all these different ways to survive on my own. Now, when you're 10 years old, you kind of think of everything as an adventure. So you're not really thinking homeless. You're thinking, oh, this is kind of interesting, and I'm learning
Mm-hmm.
from all these different people and adventure. And I check in with my mother who couldn't care for me, and so she knew I was alive.
Right.
And that went on for 3.5 years. And then I found this magical foster care. I didn't know it existed. And I had to turn myself in as a runaway. And I was like, well, I didn't really run away. I was told to leave.
Right.
so so then I did the group home experience and foster care and finally emancipated at 15. So it was an incredible journey. I got to learn so much when I
Mm.
did emancipate. Um, Before that happened, I had to go to court to get approval, and I was actually invited to be on a commercial, and that's why my family wouldn't sign for me to be on this commercial. And so I said, well, you know what, that's all good, I'll sign for myself, nobody's taking care of me. So that's why I
Wow.
emancipated. And I was sent to um this camp for really bad kids that, like, murdered somebody or took somebody's eye out, or like real extreme stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I was there waiting to emancipate. I was there for 6 months, and I got to know the kids, and I got to hear their stories and what they went through and what made them, go through whatever, do whatever they did, and who they really are as people. And
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it even back then as, this is preparing me for something, to help people, to work with people. I needed to be able to connect and have compassion for everybody and to understand that. So sometimes when we have a situation in life, kind of like this year, it's a
Mm-hmm.
gift, really is
Mm-hmm.
a gift. And
Now
it prepares
that
us.
sounds like an old soul kind of reaction. So, because a lot of kids, when they're that um, lost or neglected or abandoned, they don't necessarily have that kind of an attitude. Did you have people helping you, or did you have like an experience? How did you know that this was sort of your path?
When I was really young, maybe 5 years old, I was at my grandparents' home, and my grandmother was this beautiful, incredible businesswoman.
Mm.
And she had all these other friends in the neighborhood that would come over, and they'd have coffee and tea and talk, all ladies. They all had their own businesses. One lady, all her family had been killed at a concentration camp. Another lady, her husband passed away, and she took over the business. It was a Greek restaurant. She was like a famous Greek restaurant in LA. It was one of the most famous restaurants back in the day. And it was at the time when it was kind of frowned upon for women to own businesses and run them. And she didn't care. She knew she was going to just move forward.
Right.
And just so many different ladies. It was a big group. One lady, her and her husband escaped a country, and they had to leave everything. The ruler changed over there. They had to leave all their belongings. They didn't speak English when they got here, and they were
Mm.
able to rebuild their life. And so I hear these stories from these stoic women, and I just knew, okay, one day I'm going to have my own adventure, and I'm going to get through it. I'm going to be able to get to the other side and tell these
Hmm.
stories, part of my history.
Fabulous. So she was like a role model, like a beacon, blinking light for you. Yeah,
Yes.
wonderful. So you said abuse, without, if you're comfortable, only because I think that one of the reasons why I started this show and have my own book is, highlighting the fact that we're the majority that have had childhood trauma. It's not something that's, just a few and far between. And if the majority of us have had childhood trauma, why do we think there's something wrong with us? Why do we think we're never going to get ahead? We're actually the ones that have a unique ability, like you said, to connect because of those experiences. So just so there can be a bit of, relating, if you wouldn't mind sharing some of your milestones in learning.
In learning, well, obviously the abuse came from different people and situations. When I was 3 years old, a parent was taken away for trying to choke me until I stopped breathing
Mm.
and shake me. And so these were, it was interesting, violent stuff that happened. And when you're a little child, you don't know there's other things besides what your normal is.
Right.
So what I've found, my learning from that is that we're attracted to and attract what we know most as love.
Hmm.
And so sometimes we tend to find other abusive relationships or situations because that's what we knew as love. And
Mhm.
as soon as we're aware of that, we're able to shift that and then attract people that are more aligned with who we are today and who we're becoming. And so that awareness makes all the difference. So now
So,
as a child, you can never blame yourself. These things just happen. It's what we
mhm,
do that makes a
mhm,
difference.
mhm. So there's two things. One is innocence doesn't necessarily attract broken, but then broken sometimes attracts broken. So, so when you work with kids who have had abuse, the message is,
Well, the message is now I was a foster parent too, so I fostered to adopted 3 children and I have 3 of my own. So coming from that, when you
six
have
kids?
children that,
You have six kids?
yes, yes,
Good for
they're all
you.
grown now. They're all my babies. And so, when you're bringing a young adult or child into your home that's coming from an abusive situation, whether you're fostering or it's a family member that ends up at your doorstep one day, to expect them to show up and understand normal and your rules and how to function without breaking down or having a situation or whatever is
Mhm,
is not even realistic.
mhm,
You've got to meet the child where they're at and slowly bring them into where you're at as a family.
mhm.
Even if you're just visiting that child, understand and don't expect them to act like nothing's ever happened because it
Right.
did. It's going to come out. For children, it comes out in different ways.
Hmm. Is that why you um, fostered and adopted kids?
Yes. So one of the things that I always made sure that I did was give back to the community and especially to the children. When I was 23, I opened gift stores later on in life. And I mean, it's crazy. I opened this 5,000 square foot store at 23. I don't know how the guy, like I had money saved up and the guy agreed and gave me 6 months free rent. And I started this big gift store. And I ended up working with the government. And back then they had Job Training Partnership Act. And
Hmm.
I created a training program where I would have at-risk youth, a lot of kids from the foster care system that were emancipating. Nobody wanted to hire these kids. Well,
Mm.
I would interview them and I would know like which ones were real and which ones weren't because like I was just in their shoes. And so
Right, right.
give opportunity. So over the years, I had over 100 students that went through my training program and were able to, later have their own businesses, or 6 months later, they would get a job at a top department store. And so that was one of the ways I gave back. And then I also adopted these 3 kids and
That's
mentor
beautiful.
at a girls' home. So,
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. And if you've just tuned in and you're wondering who my guest is this week, it is Sheila Mac, and you are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get happy with Dr. Marissa. And this is my 432nd consecutive week on the air, on camera. And I think that's what Tony was clapping earlier. I forgot to say that. And if you missed last week's landmark show with Jane Elliott, who is once and for all told us there's no such thing as white people, we're faded Black people, then make sure you go to my YouTube to see that interview again. And I'm so appreciate. I do want to mention one thing I forgot to do with her is to mention her website. So we ran out of time. So please, Jane Elliott with 2T's.com to get all of those resources that she mentioned. But today we're here talking about how to get ourselves out of how to pick ourselves up by our bootstraps and our bra straps with author and coach Sheila Mac. Sheila Mac, what do you mean by pull yourself up by the bootstraps and the bra straps? That's the name of your best-selling book. Tell us about your formula.
So what happened was back in 2017, I lost my house to the Ventura fire. That same week, my cat got eaten by a coyote because she was so nervous she ran out. And one of my amazing children crashed my car. And so I was demoted to like nothing and living in a shed and within a week's time. And depression actually started to set in, and I thought, wait a minute, I don't even do depressed. What is going on here? And so I had to make a lot of adjustments and decide. I had this rebounder, so I started doing affirmations, jumping up and down. I got a ride and went to my favorite Agape to get in community with friends and get support that way. And because I started making these shifts, beautiful things showed up really quickly in my life. My son had loaned me this beater car because he felt bad. He crashed the nice one. And so it's the one that roll the windows up. It kind of drives sideways. The brakes didn't work. It needed 6,000 in repair. And, you know, he owed like 8 and it was just crazy. And so I go to the dollar store and I get these beautiful stickers and I put them on the visor and I, you know, made it beautiful. And my son said, "Oh, Mom, you really souped up that car." And I was like, "That's right." Because, you know, no matter what situation we find ourselves in, it's the energy we put into where we are. And so within a month, I was invited to work at a new real estate company. I lead online courses and work in that field as well. And so I was invited there. I ended up moving to Beverly Hills. In fact, it was the first day that Agape moved into their center in Beverly Hills. And so I walk into the center and they were saying, "Welcome home." And I was like, wow, how magical these things align, right? And I was so grateful. There's something about when you're able to stay in a good state and have gratitude, even for the car, the beater car, you know, and make it the best you can, that makes the difference. I ended up going back to this 400 square foot shed that I was staying in. Literally, it was a shed on the side of a mobile home that was 400 square feet. It was ridiculous because that was, you know, it was that or the shelter, and it was nicer than the shelter, obviously.
Right.
And, you know, I went back there within a month to gather my things to move to my new home. And I thought, wait, you know, how many other people feel as alone as I did? Didn't have connection because everybody had lost their homes in that area. So it's not like you could really reach out. And I thought, how many people could really use a shift? And what did I do differently? Because most of my neighbors who laughed at me when I souped up my car and was doing affirmations, they were still stuck complaining and in that space, and nothing had changed. The only difference was how I showed up. So I sat down and excuse me. I'm sorry. I don't know how to stop that.
Okay, so sorry. That's okay. Keep going.
Anyway, so I went back there and I decided to write out the formula, and that's how I came up with the Boots formula, and that really made all the difference in starting this. I wanted to
run through the BOOTS. I know you probably take a lot, obviously a lot longer, but I'm curious what it stands for.
Yeah. So the B is for being. It's about who you're being in all that you're doing and who you need to be during a certain situation in order to get a new outcome.
Great. So Sheila, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second because I just had this great inspired thought. So let's, instead of talking about the formula, I want you to apply the formula to what's going on right now. So I'm going to be your client. All right. And I'm going to be not my hashtag positively opinionated normal self. And I'm going to be the average person right now who has lost their job because they got laid off because their company went under. They don't have a 501. They don't have a 401. Obviously I'm self-employed. I don't even know what it is. 401k. They don't have that. They have very little savings. The stimulus check of $1,200 only goes so far. They don't qualify for unemployment, or they did, but it didn't really cover what they needed to. They don't know what they're going to do. They have bad relationships with the people that they have been quarantined with because they're just sick of each other. They have unresolved stuff from the past because of past pain, either through a broken heart or childhood trauma. They hate either party in the political. They feel alone, they feel lonely, they feel abandoned. They don't feel like going out, or they don't feel like talking to people. And they are in this place of absolute darkness. So now tell me about the boots, because I think this is, I'm not alone, right? And as positive as even I am, there are moments because of what's happened. And then to hear on top of everything, George Floyd being killed, and then the protests. And so there's a lot of fluxed up, as my big brother, Reverend Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith will say, it's fluxed up and it's unstable and it's chaotic. How do you apply boots to that?
Okay, so the first thing that I would ask you to do is to go back in time and think about the last situation that you thought was impossible or hopeless or difficult. Think about who you were being when that first showed up and who you needed to be in order to get to a different outcome in your life. You had to make changes on how you're showing up. So when we're
Easy.
in survival, yes, when we're in survival mode, nothing works out. We're just, it's like drowning and you're splashing around. And so when you're able to do a survival float and just be in the flow of the now, and be who you truly are, and ask for help when you need it, then beautiful things will start showing up.
So it took me back to the very expensive divorce that I had. And it was a horrible, horrible, dark time. I lost close to 4 million between support and property and business. And it was a very, very dark time. So that's where I went back. So now what do I do?
So once you go back there and you realize the difference, you had to make that switch in who you were being in order to get out of a not happy relationship and get into your own life and your own living on your own terms, right? So there was a shift to make. You decided, I'm not going to take it anymore. Enough of this. It's time for me to step up, step out of something that's not aligned, and move forward with my life. That was a different person, someone staying and settling for something that just wasn't fitting in anymore.
When you were talking, I was, just when you put those two together, I said to myself, wow, that was horrific. And I didn't think I would be able to get through that then, but look at me now. So it allowed me to sort of take that ruler or that measuring stick and see the growth, or see the, if I could do that, then I can do this now. So brilliant. Cool. All right, next.
So the next thing is the first O in the Boots formula is for orientation. So at one point during that divorce, before you decided, you had to say, or once you decided, you had to look at your finances, your situation, and you had to be very honest about your orientation in life. Where am I now versus a few months ago where I was miserable, perhaps, yet I had maybe some belongings and things that I can make again, but I was suffering. And who do I want? What do I want as this outcome? So you're really honest about your X and your O on your bank account, and how you have to, shift your relationships. A lot of times when we go through a divorce or a situation like that, we lose people that were family, close friends take sides. It's kind of difficult. So we have to really be honest about our new orientation for this year. It's okay. 2020 goals kind of shifted in March when we all got locked down.
Mm-hmm.
So had to
Yeah.
make a new assessment.
So right now, for people who are going through, well, what everybody's going through, um, it sounds like setting some intentions. Am I
Yes,
translating that correctly? So the
setting
orientation is asking me what I want.
yes, but also being really honest about this is where I'm at now. I might not be making the same amount of money I was in January. I
Mm-hmm.
might have a shift in, how my spending is going to happen. I might not be able to go get my hair cut for a month or two. I might have to totally change the way I
Mm-hmm.
socialize with people. And so all these things are different. I might have to have my children home while I work from home and homeschool for the first time in my life. And I'm not the best teacher, so these are huge realities that we have to like say, this is the orientation. This is where we are. Now we've moved to this point on the map, and this is our outcome that we still desire. So unless you're
Okay.
honest about where you're at, you can't
Mm-hmm.
really go to where you want to be. You have to
So
be
as a
very
mo- so as a motivational speaker, I was looking at anywhere from 5 to 15,000 a month that had been set for speaking gigs, and that's all gone. So I had to go through a little bit of grieving. And then my discipline is to say, I can't wait to see what good comes out of this.
yes.
Because that's what happened. And we're part of the same discipline. I knew that my book, The 8 Ways to Happiness, came out of losing a $200,000 consulting project. So I do know that loss is temporary, and that's my orientation.
So the next O in the Boots formula is order of operations. So that's when you know who you need to be. Now you know who you need to be, you know where you are, and you know where you want to go. And so now you need to do things in a certain order. Obviously, I couldn't go from a burned down house to a home in Beverly Hills in a minute. It took steps. I had to get the beater car. I had to fix that up. I had to rent cars. I had to go through a lot of different steps in order to get
Mm-hmm.
back on track. But once you know those first two, you're able to put things in order. Think about when you wake up in the morning and you have an order to your day. You do your meditation, you do your exercises, you do different things that work for you. Your day goes better. If you wake up
Mm-hmm.
late, coffee and junk food, and you rush around and you're late to everything, that's going to change how your day shows up. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the order in which you do things that's going to make a big difference.
Okay, so having a vision, having a picture of what you want is the second O. The third O is having like an operational plan to get there.
Yes. And the
Okay.
T in the Boots formula is for thinking. And I really think that's probably our most important, because that's the mindset part. That was me on the rebounder while the fires were still burning, and I'm doing affirmations, and everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy and I've lost my mind.
Right.
That was putting stickers in the car and trying to make it as nice as possible when it was really bad. It was how my thinking is, the mindset. I'm like you're saying, I know I've gone through these things before and I'm going to get through
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's thinking mindset that's very important.
Absolutely. So the this is there an S, or is it just boot?
S.
Oh,
There's an
there is an
S,
S.
and the
Okay.
S,
Okay.
yes. So you tie it all together, and that's stepping up. So obviously you have to step up and take action when you're afraid, when you're not sure, gosh, this divorce is going to cost me some money, but I need to step up and do it because this isn't feeling right anymore. It's not aligning, or
It was
whatever it
my
is.
sixth time trying to leave him, by the way.
Yes. Just- Yeah. I mean, we're sisters in that too. We could share stories. And yes, and it's very expensive, but what is the cost of freedom and being in an aligned community and relationships?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
it's worth it sometimes.
Yeah,
And
well, that's the joke, right? Why is divorce so expensive? Because it's worth it. Anyways, it is time for us to thank the sponsor of today's show. We are talking to Sheila Mac, and we're using her Boots formula to motivate us and we're all in this together on how we can get out of our pity pot, our victim place where sometimes it gets a little too comfortable, so that we can use this COVID time to really come out the other side. We're going to come back with more of that after this sponsor for today's show. And we'll be right back. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Have you lost your job? Have you lost a loved one? Are you exhausted caring for your parents, for your kids? Well, you can find immediate relief when you read Sheila Mac's new #1 bestseller, Bootstraps and Bra Straps. It contains the Boots formula to move from rock bottom back into action in any situation, especially right now. If life has knocked you down, pick yourself up with Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Get your copy at www.sheilamac.com today. And welcome back. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get happy with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon out of the UBN Go studios in Burbank, California, and then rebroadcasting on my CNBC NBC channel, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and on demand on iHeartRadio. And Sheila Mac is here, and we're talking about how to move out of the discomfort of what's going on around you if you don't like it. And certainly we are all in the same boat right now in America with this thing called COVID, with this thing called racism, the two viruses that we've been fighting. And now, if that wasn't bad enough, we've got all of the hate stuff going around with politics. So, how does one sort of use this formula to find some meaning? I mean, what is life about absolutely right now?
The thing about that, and that's the way I designed the book, is that there's activities and free gifts and resources at the end of each chapter. And each chapter goes into different stories and scenarios of rock bottom events that we all kind of go through in life. And so, with that, when you're redesigning your life, that's the last chapter, is lifestyle redesign. Everything, the activities, the work that you do is self work, and it's life on your terms. That's the beauty of when we go through a divorce or hit a rock bottom or deal with these issues right now, is we get to redesign our life, our community, our world on our terms this time. And so that's going to make all the difference. It's very individualized.
Mm-hmm.
You could ask 100 people what they want, and they're going to tell you a different answer.
Right. So it's your own vision. It is your own mission. It is your own reinventing yourself. You get to choose and decide. But what about when you just don't feel like it? What about when you're just tired, you're just weary of everything that's going on around you, that you just want to climb back under the covers or go to the fridge or go to the liquor cabinet? What how do you work with yourself then?
I'm going to tell you the most important thing that I found. And this year in December, I lost my youngest son. So I went through another
Ooh.
grieving situation. And I
What
actually had,
happened?
well, he had Wolf Parkinson White syndrome. So it's a heart condition that you hear a lot of athletes, they'll be playing sports and they'll just die. Yeah.
Oh.
And so
I'm so sorry, Sheila. That's like,
Yes,
I can't even imagine.
it was very hard, and on my entire family, obviously, all of the kids were very close, and so I put my book on hold. I put everything on hold, and I went to the process of getting through the grieving, getting help when I needed it, working with my kids, getting us all reorganized, and honoring that time, but also
Mm-hmm.
connecting.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I found was when I was feeling down or feeling alone, because right after that, he passed away December 21st, 2019.
Wow.
And COVID hit, and we were just really waking up. Like,
Wow.
honestly, you go through the stages and you honor
Yeah.
those.
Kubler-Ross. Mm-hmm.
And yet, you get to the point where you're starting to get back into life and wake up and
Mm-hmm.
move forward a bit. And then we got hit with the COVID, and my daughter and all my kids were in the yard, and we're having a barbecue, and we're talking about, oh my gosh, my daughter says, this is out of the mouth of somebody very young. She says, Mom, if ever there was a need that our family had to have this universal pause, it was this year. This is such a
Wow.
gift. So we needed that time personally. And I feel as though all of us, there's a gift in this time.
Yes.
As much as there's difficulties, there's a gift in family, connecting, community. So one of the things is when I feel down, the first thing I'll do is I'll get out of my head and into my heart, and I'll start calling people. I'll say, who's alone? Who
Mm-hmm.
needs to have connection? Who needs a call, a text, a Zoom, whatever? And I will get on that phone until, believe it, it's like a miracle, but it's so many people need this. You'll start connecting with people that are like, oh my gosh, I was so lonely. I was going to the fridge. I was going to the liquor cabinet. I was, so depressed. And you cannot be in a state of love and connection and fear and depression at the same time. It's like not
Mm.
possible. And
Right.
so
Right. Right.
by the end of a day like that, I am so happy and blessed to be able to connect with my friends. And I'm in so
Mm-hmm.
much gratitude that that whole thing shifts. So
Right.
it's getting out there and giving back, getting out of your own mindset of whatever that is, and connecting with others. And you give love, you receive love.
Yeah, yeah. Let me go back to one of the comments. Is there a formula? So you were talking about kids who have been abused, and it's not a light switch, I call it. Like, you can't just get over it. You can't just pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You can't just have a child who's gone through that just turn on a dime kind of thing. Same thing with what's going on with the loss in the
Yeah.
grieving period. Is there, and your grieving period, is there, like, at what point is it where you're not feeling it, you're marinating in it? Is there a timeline? Is it very individual? How does one know? And is there room to be depressed? Is there room to grieve? Is there room? I know my daughters are, the biggest feedback they gave me, they love me as their mom, but I don't let them stay in any kind of too long negative place, because I want them, to attract the positive energy that positive energy attracts. And their comment to me is, Mom, just let me be sad. So I know for me, where is that line? Where's that formula for you?
You know, when you first go through a grieving process, and I think we all grieved the shift in our world this year between all the different things that have happened,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a loss, there's a grieving that happens, there's shock, there's like, how did this happen? We were out, hugging people, we didn't have to wear masks, it's awesome.
Right.
Now, what is this? So we have to adjust mentally to a new situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that there is that space and time. Grieving is so sacred. It really is. So when you can look at it from that vantage point of what is the beauty of that time, these emotions are given to us as a gift to align with our new feelings, to adjust to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it, you know, you would get concerned if you had a loved one or a friend or you yourself are stuck and you still, you know, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, you're still not able to do basic things. And it's the beauty about, you know, like losing a loved one. It was so hard to have to go buy an outfit
Right.
and go the do the memorial services and all of this. And you know, i I remember my daughter and I had to go to the Beverly Center, and we went to Macy's to get this outfit, and I had socks in my hand, and I started crying my eyes out over socks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was laughing at the fact that I was crying in the middle of this beautiful store. And then my
Right.
daughter was laughing, and we were both laughing and crying. And everybody, you know, they were like, what the heck is up with these ladies? And
Yeah.
we did not care. And we didn't care at all because it was part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the tears out is required, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just as much. We have all sides to it. And it wasn't like we were stuck there, but we needed to go through that process.
Yeah.
And told all my kids, I said, hey, you know what? You're going to have to love and acknowledge all your feelings. You know, if you feel like screaming, go scream. If you feel like yelling or crying or talking about it or not talking about it, we're going to honor that. And that went on for a while. And it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it still comes and goes. You know, it was good to connect with the community. We had Reverend Coco do our services, and we for Michael and my son. And then we connected with the community, the grief support community. We connected
Mm-hmm.
with, like some of my kids did grief therapy. And these are all parts of the healing process. We went through the boot formula together, and I thought, oh my gosh, I wrote the book for myself. Sometimes we give
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and so we,
Absolutely.
yes, and that makes all the difference, is
Yeah.
just honoring that and asking for help. Don't be ashamed. Ask for help when you need it,
Mm-hmm.
because that's not a bad thing. That's a beautiful thing. You would want your best friend, your children, whoever, to say, "Hey, I need some help right now."
Mm-hmm.
That's what you
Mm-hmm.
would want. Who wouldn't want that? And
Yeah.
so, you know, that's also very important. And
Yeah.
we show up for everybody else so much. Think about it. We show up in our work. We show up for our children. We
Mm-hmm.
show up in our communities. And then we don't want to ask for help.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. It's you know, I usually tell my clients, you know, when you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, that's probably the time. But there's a little, you know, a little lip that once you, if you don't acknowledge that, then you start sinking, and then we get into depression, and then it's even harder to get out. So that's the choice, because we do. I think that you're absolutely 100% right on. This is the time to, um, you know, up our relationships so that we have better, you know, support systems, being a support, you know, and also asking for support. I think that's an awesome thing. This is the time. This is time. That's what we're growing. That's our, that's, as Michael will say, in this exact situation, exactly as it is without changing a thing, what is being developed in you at this exact moment because of this exact situation? What is being developed? What skill, talent, and ability? So we're all growing a sense of humor. We're all growing resilience. We're all growing a heightened sense of connection and caring. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely. So, Sheila, I usually ask one question of all of my guests, and that is, who and what are you most grateful for? Did I
You
lose you?
know,
Oh, there you
I
were.
I am most grateful, I obviously, for my family and my beautiful friends and community, and those ladies that I could go back to when I told you about when I was a little girl and they told me their stories
Mm-hmm.
and what they through and how they got to a better place. And they have always been with me in my heart. They were my extended family, and we all have people in our lives that are more family than family. And to keep those lessons with me, that has made the biggest difference in my life.
Beautiful. Beautiful. How do people find the book?
So the book is available on Amazon, and it's also on my website. This is the book here, just to show off the cover.
Yeah.
And I have plenty of free gifts. So if you go to my website, you can watch the introduction to the Boots formula for free. It's a short course, and that's one gift to you. And then in each chapter of the book, there's also additional free gifts.
Beautiful. And Dr. John Gray gave me a copy of his book to give away to my listeners. Can we do an Asian Oprah giveaway? I forgot to ask you before the show. So
Yes.
I'll get a copy from you, and the first person to go to drmarissa.life and put down Bootstraps and Bra Straps. Just put Bra Straps. I think that's pretty tantalizing. Will be the winner of that. And you can pick up the book when we're able to congregate again. But thank you so much, Sheila, for coming on and sharing your story and your formula. And I know already we have people making comments, and it's been of wonderful help. Hopefully you got something out of that. And thank you again, Sheila, for coming on to the show.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And now it is time for the end of the show when I do my balance bar. And the balance bar is a time for you to connect with me. So the first thing I'd like to do is thank all the people. It was my birthday. Well, it's still my birthday. I celebrate all month. So my birthday, the technical birthday show was last week. With Jane Elliott. And then I had a fundraiser for my new nonprofit for my birthday. And I just wanted to give a love shout out to all the people who donated. Timothy Taylor from Texas, Jaquetta Green, Annie Martin Cerna, my sister, Dr. Jane Smith Warfield, Joshua Johnson, Annie Evans, Deborah Moore, Jen Potts, Barbara Williams, Ryan Corbin, and Ken and Mary Richardson. So thank you so much for wishing me a fabulous birthday. You can actually give me a birthday gift. No, I'm not going to ask for cash, but if you go to Smile Amazon and use the link for 8 Ways to Happiness, then whatever you buy, Amazon is forced to give 8 Ways to Happiness a small portion with which I can donate books, my 8 Ways to Happiness, to teenagers and young adults who are temporarily not feeling the loving, lovable, and love that they are. So thank you so much for doing that. As well, I want to invite you August 27th. I'm speaking for the E for Women in Media, and you can go to the Asian Culture Media Alliance.org to register for that. Tomorrow, I will be speaking for Business Week Live at 11:35. I will be on the air talking about happiness. If you'd like to be a sponsor for this show, please do contact me. We have COVID-friendly rates going on right now. And I think that is it. Please go to Medium. I have time now, thanks to COVID, to write. In 4 months and 4 days, I've published 17 articles, and I'm grateful for over 2,500 reads. So please go to Medium, share those. I'm speaking on your behalf as far as to mask or not to mask, and trying to get us all to be a little kinder before the November vote instead of calling each other names. As well, there's things on there on how to look good, look remotely good on Zoom, as well as mental health tips. And you can go to my website, drmarissa.life, for free alphabet soup, happy 88 tips on how you can be happier even now, right now. We're starting up classes, so just connect with me, Doc Balance on Instagram, and Dr. Marissa everywhere else. I think, let's see, Tony, I know I had you put up some other pictures. And I'm not on that screen. But whatever it is that you are looking for, if you resonated with what Sheila was talking about today, go to SheilaMac.com. She has plenty of resources to help you there. If you haven't gotten 8 Ways to Happiness from wherever you are, celebrating 2 years and 8 bestseller lists, then please go to my website to get that. And I think that's it. If I forgot something, I'll be reminded. But I so appreciate all of you continuing to support the show and to support my work and all of my guests. And I wish you the best week ever. Remember, it's all about balance. It's all about happiness. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace.